Guess who's back?
Hi. Backstreet's back. Oh
All
my
right.
I don't know. I actually didn't listen to Backstreet or NSYNC. They asked me when I was in elementary school, like, oh, what do you prefer? And I was like, they all sound the same. Everybody was mad at me. I made a lot of enemies that day.
Mm-hmm.
I still can't really tell the difference. I think I like Backstreet a little bit more. But again, probably because my cousin who lived with us was a Backstreet fan, so I just kind of, all right, well, whatever's on, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I think Panda had like thoughts she wanted to cover.
I've
That
forgotten
we
them all
skipped.
because I'm sleepy.
Yeah.
I was sleepy.
During the retrospective, there was stuff she wanted to mention. But since she can't remember them, I figured we could just go back to where we originally left off and talk a little bit about Arc 15 Colony on a high level. So as a reminder, this is the arc where the Taylor, yeah,
We're the Taylor.
not the Taylor, the Undersiders consolidate their territory and like basically seize control of the city entirely.
Taylor and the Taylorettes.
Right. But also the conflict with Coil starts to come to a head,
Mm-hmm.
essentially. So let's just click on the first chapter and I'll scroll through and see what I can summarize for you. Sound
All
good?
right.
All right. Clickety click.
I still can't believe that. Wait, this isn't the Travelers one, is it?
This is not the Travelers arc.
I got them mixed up because they're together, but I still can't believe the Travelers were a bunch of pro gamers. Somebody commented it was just like that pause before Panda found out they were pro gamers. I'm like, well, yes, there's a pause. That makes us a fucking isekai. That was the isekai interlude.
Mm-hmm.
I can't get over the fact that this was a fucking isekai. Sword Art Online who? Better story. This was a better story than Sword Art Online.
Uh-huh.
Fight me. No, this was better than SAO.
Mm-hmm.
Because Kirito went to jail and Asuna died.
Hmm.
Okay, maybe
Whatever.
did that happen? I don't know. I didn't watch SAO. I just watched SAO Abridged. Okay. Anyway, which was much better. Anyway,
Right.
the Coil arc, right?
See.
God, I do think it's kind of sad / interesting. Like, I can see why Taylor felt betrayed because she did everything to be like, I'm gonna do the right thing. I'm gonna save this poor little girl, and the little girl's just like, yay, I'm free. You're not gonna be anymore. Like, I get it, knowing everything that I know, but still kind of a dick move.
Mm-hmm.
Could have explained things a little bit more. The Coil arc. Taylor killed a man in cold blood, right?
Well,
You said?
at the end of this arc, yeah. Not arc 15 arc, but at the end of like the story arc.
Oh. What was arc 10? Arc 15.
This is arc 15.
Right,
This is
so
this is the setup for a Coil.
So arc 15 is the setup for Coil, and arc 16 is the Coil arc.
Essentially, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything good to go over here? Because
There's plenty. Like, there's a lot of like little character interactions, right? So the start of 15.1, we actually get to zoom in on Bitch and Taylor and their interactions. Like, it starts off with Bentley, like lunging. Oh, hold on. Bentley lunged in my direction, and I could feel people backing away behind me. Of everyone present, only Bitch and I held our ground as the dog barreled into his master, practically bouncing with joy.
How big is Bentley?
Right now, he's in monster form, so everyone else is like running the fuck away.
Mm-hmm.
And like, meanwhile, this giant monster dog is running away from a burning building with his harness like trailing behind him, and he's running towards Bitch. And Bitch, for her part, wrapped her arms around his head as he lifted her off the ground. Good boy.
It's a good moment.
Yeah. Just like, he's just a dog. Beneath the 3,000-ish pounds of muscle and exterior of tangled muscle and bone, he was still a dopey dog who adored his master.
Is Waldo a dog or a cat person?
Like, I'm pretty sure he's a dog
I feel
person.
like, yeah, right? I feel like you have to be a dog person to write this because, if you're a dog person, that is how dogs be.
Uh-huh.
Kelly Belly, my parents' dog, Kelly Belly, look, You make her a 5,000-pound Kelly Belly, she will be just like this. She will be just as derpy.
Right? No matter how big
Actually,
she
I'm going
is.
to say more derpy because now the brain cell to body volume has shrunk drastically.
So overheat with all the muscle.
Excitement? Oh,
Yeah.
right. Well, excitement and the muscle. The muscle will keep it in.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Kelly Belly. She used to do this thing where, like, at dinner time, she doesn't, you know, my dog, she doesn't care for me. She likes my dad. She cares the most for my father because he feeds her scraps from the table, even though he's not supposed to. So Kelly only shows affection for me when it's dinner time, and she will do so by pressing her head onto my leg. Not like just laying her head on my leg simply, but just like actually adding weight. She doesn't drool, thankfully, but can you imagine
Good
one of
dog.
these dogs doing that? It's just
Yeah.
when you have a dog.
Oh, man.
Listen, this is the difference between a cat and a dog. A cat, if you make a cat 5,000 pounds, you make a giant cat, that cat will understand that there is nothing holding it back now from destroying you and everything you love, and it will proceed to do so. The dogs, they're just going to be like, oh, cool, I'm enormous now, and proceed to continue to dog.
Right. Yeah. They just don't realize, right?
Dogs have no sinister thoughts.
Even the tiny dogs don't realize, it feels like.
No, I think the tiny dogs would take revenge.
Okay.
Look, for me, it's big dog, cat, little dog. Look, you're gonna get a little dog. That little dog is useless. Just get yourself a cat.
Fair.
Less trouble.
Uh-huh. Tower's here. Buenos dias.
Oh, hello.
Kind of remember that panda story. Yeah. You've told this story about
About the dog?
the dog before. Yeah.
Wow, you guys remember better than I do.
This line sticks out.
Which one?
Bitch had given him what he'd been yearning for since he was abandoned or abused in his past life. She'd offered him the
A hug.
affection and companionship he'd been wanting for years. I could relate.
I can relate too. Wow. Gosh. You know, before Taylor said that, I was just kind of like, yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, not in terms of bitch specifically, but I could relate.
No, I can relate. I could use what was it? Affection.
Affection and companionship that he'd been wanting.
Yeah, that sounds nice. I'd
Alright.
love some affection and companionship.
So Taylor is ordering around her a bunch of people, 22 adults and 20 kids.
Oh,
With Coyle's assistance, they had brought in a bunch of work gloves, hazmat suits, tools, and stuff like
what are these
that.
for?
Huh?
What are these for?
For rebuilding in her territory. Everyone was dripping from the rain, but nobody was really complaining. I rather liked it. It was refreshing in the otherwise warm day.
Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. Would you complain to Taylor if it's raining and she's got that creepy bug mask thing going and you know she's a supervillain and she's being backed by an even like bigger supervillain with like more money than Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates combined?
I wouldn't
Like it's
complain,
raining,
yeah.
or Taylor's just like, oh good, no one's complaining. Dude, I would think to myself, if I complain, she will shove spiders down my throat. I won't complain.
Uh-huh. What else?
Does Tay ever gain any sense of self-awareness as the series progresses? Because I feel like
No,
she doesn't.
She does not.
Oh. I'm like.
In fact, she
she gets
essentially
worse?
loses her sense of self-awareness.
Oh, that's right, because of
Yeah.
the whole thing.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
at
a
the
good.
end.
That's true.
Oh. Tower saying is referring to the Backstreet Boys story.
Oh,
You have told that like 2 or 3 times at this point, I think.
I'm not like other girls. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I created a barrier of bugs to stop one of the teenagers from reaching for a circular saw. If you're under 18, you don't get to use power tools. Priority goes to the people who know how the tools are used.
Taylor, you're under 18.
Able-bodied adults get second dibs. That's a good point.
What I just said?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, really. I'd say who died and made you team captain, but well, I guess somebody.
A lot
will
of people
die.
died,
A lot
yeah.
of people died, and more people will die if we say no to you. So.
We've had enough casualties. Let's not have anything stupid happening with someone slipping or losing their grip in the rain. If someone's being an idiot, tell Sierra and she'll inform me. Sierra glanced at me and nodded.
Now who's the tattletale?
Eh.
But
I turned my attention to Bitch. You owe me, she said.
for what?
The rain had plastered her short hair against her scalp. Her gang of 4 people stood by with dogs on leashes. Barker, Biter, college-age kid with the scars of 4 parallel claw marks running across his face, and a girl with her arm in a sling. They didn't look scared like my people had, but they still didn't look fantastically thrilled to be in close vicinity to one of Bitch's dogs on full throttle.
Would you?
I'd probably be used to it, I guess, at that point.
I guess, but you know, it's still kind of a bit. You know, it's a lot.
Yeah. Never mind that you were the one that came here early. Of course, we'll get you and your people some lunch. She frowned. Lunch? There was
Yeah, you know, dogs only care about food, right?
Mhm. There was a bit of a pause. I waited patiently as she considered the idea. Fine, she decided. Come on, I told her. We'll go to my place while we wait for the others.
We'll have tea and cookies. Like proper supervillains.
Let's see. So Taylor kind of muses a little bit about how to fix her relationship with Bitch. And one of the things she's considered was, well, Bitch probably didn't pay attention to stuff like food. Odds were good that she'd ask Coil for a lot of easy food she could stuff in her pockets and eat on the go.
So beef jerky. Her pockets are full of beef jerky.
Oh, it probably would be. Stuff she can chew on. Yeah.
Stuff she can really like gnash her teeth on. Because bitch doesn't strike me as the kind of person who would eat normally. She strikes me as the kind of person who would eat the way my dog does. You know, nom 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 nom, gnashing your teeth together, crunch crunch. You know.
Uh-huh. I'd recently spent some time looking back on our past interactions. Her perspective towards me had zigzagged between a kind of hesitant acceptance and hostility. We'd met, she'd attacked me. We'd gone to the bank robbery, and she'd been open and excited, only to do a 180 and start shouting at me after misinterpreting something I said. 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
I mean, you know, taking in a dog that's been through trauma.
Yeah. Until I'd left the group and then been outed as an undercover operative a short while later. That had been a good, solid 100 steps back. So, yeah, she talks about how difficult it was to recover from that breach of trust.
I feel like this isn't important.
It's kind of reminding you of the relationship between her and Bitch right now.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm skipping ahead a little bit. There's a little bit on her subordinates, where Barker and Biter looked pretty unimpressed either way, Barker especially. And they go to Taylor's headquarters without talking too much.
Okay, does anything worth mentioning happen in this?
Just more thoughts about Bitch. She doesn't say anything because a slip-up could set me back days or weeks in terms of our friendship.
This is all so this chapter is just Taylor thinking about Bitch and being entirely too much in her head.
Just the start of the chapter, which I skipped a bunch of, by the way.
This is the summary?
I'm summarizing a lot of
this. This is the summary?
Yes.
Good lord.
Yeah, she wonders if friendship should even be her goal. If it was just for my sake, I could probably convince myself. As it stood, though, I was thinking of Bitch. I felt like I would be abandoning her to a pretty lonely existence if I didn't at least try.
Okay.
Alright.
This is frustrating to listen to.
Why is it frustrating?
None of this goes anywhere.
None of it goes anywhere.
It just doesn't feel like any of this is going anywhere. This is like aimless.
I am summarizing this to you because it is set up for the relationship that is developing between Bitch and Taylor. Right.
I feel like that relationship's better taken as a retrospective rather than like you giving me all the hard details of. And this is a summary. I know you're summarizing it, but it still feels to me like this could be condensed into even more like stuff, you know?
Okay.
It just feels like all of this could be condensed even further because it just feels like, okay, the core idea is this is set up for their eventual relationship and Taylor's waffling about again and Bitch is being Bitch.
All right, sure.
Isn't that just like an adequate summary of everything then?
I guess. I mean, I thought there was some interesting stuff in there, but I'll skip even more. Do you care anything about her subordinates?
No.
Okay.
I mean, is there a reason for me to care?
they have a little interaction where they're just like, how the fuck do you get along with bitch?
This is okay. So this whole chapter is about bitch. Then main idea. This is about bitch.
No, this is the first half of the chapter.
Okay, but you see what I'm saying, right? If this is an essay and the main idea is like Taylor gets places with bitch, then that's a supporting statement for that.
Okay.
What you've just read to me.
Right.
Yeah. So I feel like this is, this is what I mean by worm could be condensed by so much more. Like, I guess maybe you think this is interesting, but I'm not really, I don't really care too much about bitch. I'm sorry. I feel like I should, given that I have CPTSD as well, but I kind of don't.
What
It's
if
really
I
hard for me to
told
care.
you that the more, like, here's the thing, right? You won't have a chance to see how bitch changes over the course of the story unless I read this stuff to you, right?
I think you can summarize it for me.
Okay. All right. I mean, she does eventually open up to Taylor and eventually becomes very loyal to her.
Right.
Essentially.
That's cool. But, I don't really need the nitty gritty. Do you want me to narrate every time I cut a 1/4 millimeter from a tooth?
All right.
That's kind of what it feels like right now.
Okay. So she has a short conversation with bitch's subordinates in terms of like, this is how you interact with bitch. Barker and Biter, their powers are, one of them has the ability to like, he has like a severe underbite and like this this metal jaw thing, and he's able to, I think, actually I don't remember. It's somewhere in this chapter. But
is it important then if you can't remember?
Okay. I guess
no, I'm serious.
Important.
I'm asking you. Like, no, I'm actually asking you. You can answer seriously. Is it important if you can't remember?
Probably not, but you might find it interesting. Anyway, yeah, Biter is able to make parts of himself bigger, so and that's essentially it.
Heh.
Yes, heh.
What? That was, don't, please tell me that was not everybody's first thought.
Let's see. Taylor helps bitch at least start to get along with her subordinates a little bit.
Okay.
One of them is actually a veterinary student who, can't study any more veterinary medicine stuff because the city got flooded and shit.
Why didn't you leave?
I think she had other stuff to do. And then
so you don't want to be a vet anymore, is what I'm hearing.
No, she's taking care of the dogs with bitch. At least that's supposedly the reason she's there.
Do you know how hard it is to get into veterinary school? I think it's harder to get into vet school than it is to get into dental school.
Okay. That's
so fair. It just seems strange to me, like, it just seems strange to me that this is something she's giving up. Mm-hmm. Like, why would you give that up? Like between, okay, listen, you give me the choice of doing a veterinary resident, like being, just continuing with my veterinary residency, or staying behind and picking up giant piles of dog doo-doo with bitch and dealing with bitch.
Yeah, she got paid by Coil to stay, which makes a lot more sense.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
School debt.
Mm-hmm. And right, Barker is the one with explosive Tourette's. When he swears, his words explode.
Face palm. Oh.
Right. So she had called a meeting. She gives out costumes to the Undersiders that she made with spider silk. And then what else? I'm gonna skip forward to their conversation about Coil.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, here we go. You wanted to touch base? Brian asked after he pulled off his mask. I had some words with Skitter, Lisa answered. I think it's about time we all got on the same page. In terms of tactics? There's that. I think working independently is kind of throwing us off, and it leaves us weak against any coordinated attacks from the Chosen. We work best when we complement one another. Alex shrugged. Okay, that's easy enough to arrange. Not really a reason to throw a major group meeting. There's something else, I said. I swallowed, looking at Regent, Imp, and Bitch. I've already talked about this at length with Lisa. and I've discussed it some with Brian. This isn't an easy topic to broach, because it sort of fucks with the team's status quo. That had their attention. I guess the question is, how keen are you guys on continuing to work for Coil?
Is this actually how teenagers talk?
This is how Taylor talks. It really is how Taylor talks.
Because I'm just like, I don't know anyone who actually talks like this. Not to be mean, but I'm just like, is that really how teenagers talk? My teenage patients are probably the least talkative patients. Like, they never want to talk. Apparently, talking to your dentist is not cool or something, kids these days. Anyway, yeah. Like, I don't hear people talk like this. Like, this is how 40-year-olds talk. I don't even talk like this. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm cool or anything, but I just think that it's interesting because I don't talk like this. Like, I would, you know, if I'm asking somebody like, hey, like, so like, how much do you still want to work with so-and-so is how I would say it, you know? I just think it's interesting that like Taylor's dialogue here is a little weird. I mean, this isn't, again, don't nobody jump down my throat. This is just like my thoughts like, huh, why does she talk like this? Like, I know bitch is supposed to be the stilted one. So, you know, whatever she says is like excusable. It's just, I don't know, it's just really weird. There are moments where she acts there's moments where Taylor acts like a teenager where she's doing the whole lip biting, swallowing, and second guessing herself and thinking 3 times the number of thoughts a normal human being should be able to think even when anxious. Look, I speak as somebody who has anxiety. Like, I don't even go and think in every possible direction. I just pick the worst one and think down that route. So I'm just like, how are you able to think of so many horrible things everywhere, all at once? You know? It's, you know, again, not to be mean, but sometimes I find like Taylor's like speech and like mannerisms to be like completely baffling.
Yeah. All right, so Taylor says, this thing with Dina, I'm not happy with it. I know Lisa and Brian have their issues with that, even if they don't share my perspective and how culpable we all are in that. I'm not responsible at all, Aisha pointed out. Aisha, Brian's tone was a warning. Just saying. You aren't responsible, I know, I told her. Anyway,
Okay.
so they talk a little bit about how, like, whether or not they are okay with not working for Coil anymore. Brian is okay with it because what he really needed help with was the court case.
Right.
And at this point, he really doesn't need any help with a court case.
I mean, yeah.
The fact that I can say I've got money saved up, I can arrange to get a place, and Aisha's safe and sound with me, that's almost enough to decide the court case as is. And mommy's on a bender, Aisha said. Don't think it'll end anytime soon. So, yeah, Brian's with Taylor on this, Lisa's with Taylor on this. So it's really down to you two. I addressed Alec and Rachel. And for Alec, he's just like, well, I mean, what if I don't want to? Like, what if I like the status quo? What if I don't want to shake the boat, right?
Rock the boat?
Or, yeah.
Does he actually say shake the boat?
No, he doesn't. I'm summarizing it to you right now. Yeah. Taylor says, a pre-adolescent girl was kidnapped with our help, and she spent the last few months drugged out of her mind. Also, Coil can use her power. That's not a quibble.
Quibble?
Yeah. Because he was saying, oh, like, why make things complicated if one of our group members has a moral quibble, right? And she's just like, that's not a quibble.
Qu'est-ce que c'est, quibble?
Qu'est-ce que c'est? It's just a minor disagreement.
I have not heard that word before.
Yeah.
Really? I haven't. No, I have not.
Oh, I have. Haven't you heard of the Quibbler?
The Quibbler?
From Harry Potter?
I thought they were making words up again, you know, like Quidditch.
Oh. Well, I mean, Quibbler is a made-up word, but I'm pretty sure it's based off of quibble.
I have no knowledge of this word.
Okay.
Why do you guys use words that I don't know? I got a really good score on the SAT.
Why do you not know words that I know?
Maybe because I talk like a normal human being. Most of the time.
Quibble.
See, I say squabble.
Squabble is a word, yes. Alex sighed dramatically. I'm just pulling your legs. World's going to end in a couple of years. Won't kill me to help you make peace with yourself before it does. There was a long pause where nobody spoke. Nice, Alec, Brian said. What? It's true. That Dina kid said it was. Don't pretend it's not going to happen. Might as well live it up before everything goes to hell in a handbasket. There's a chance it won't, I replied, my voice quiet. And with the sheer variety of powers out there, there's got to be an answer. That optimism's bound to be wearing thin by now, Alec commented.
Taylor is the optimist.
Right?
My goodness. You guys have been villains too long.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Who's a bigger optimist, Taylor or me?
That's a good question.
I'm gonna say Taylor, actually.
Yeah, she always feels like there's a solution or a way out, right?
It's adorable! She's half my age and she has twice the optimism. It's adorable. I'm fully convinced that humanity is not worth saving. Like, I'm completely convinced right now at this point. If aliens blew us up tomorrow, I'd say, hey, good riddance. Mm-hmm. Like, that's how little I have any faith in humanity. But, wow.
Anyway, so Alec is just like, yeah, I'm fine with this. Because, whatever, I'll at least help out my teammate. And then, as for Bitch, she says, I've managed without money before. Smarmy bastard conned me. Promised me I'd be left alone if I joined the group. That hasn't happened. If he thinks that I'll forget that because of what he's given me, I'd like to see the look on his face when he finds out how wrong he is.
Huh?
About, basically, she's saying, oh, I joined the group because he said I would be left alone.
Bitch said she joined the group because he said she'd be left alone and she wasn't?
Yep. So she's basically saying, I don't care about the money, I just don't want to.
You know, that's relatable.
Yeah.
That's very relatable. It's just like, listen, I don't care how much money. If I can't get everyone to just fuck off whenever I want, I don't want any part of it. You know what? That's very relatable.
Yeah. Thank you, I said. So we're all in? I asked. It was fun, Alex shrugged. That's why we got into this, wasn't it? Easy money, fun, get to do what we wanted. No pressure, no responsibilities. It's become something else. So maybe we end that. Anyway, so more or less everyone is on board with Taylor in terms of not working with Coil in the future. And then Lisa says that they have a really small window because Dina overused her power, but they have a small window of time before her power comes back online. And then once that happens, Coil becomes 1,000 times harder to take on. Then there's the mayoral elections, the question of whether the city gets condemned. What? I cut in. It's arguably more expensive to fix the problems here than it is to abandon the city entirely. Depends on what the consensus is from the president and all the other folks in charge.
The president? There's still a president?
Of the US? Yeah.
I keep forgetting, because I just keep thinking it's Brockton Bay and the Endbringers and the world.
The timelines diverged in 80-something.
Forgive me if, with a bunch of superpowered freaks and, world enders running around, and you got teenagers controlling, massive amounts of, territory, and no one sent the superpowered National Guard in. Forgive me if I forget that, actually, there might actually be people who, I don't know, are in charge or something.
Uh-huh. Okay, well, there is still someone who's in charge.
Loosely.
So what happens if the city gets condemned? Brian asks. Leave. Start over somewhere else, transporting any resources you can, and leave behind all liabilities. Somehow I don't think he'll bring Skitter.
See, this is the more of the stuff that I feel like really could be cut out. I'm sorry, but it's just they spend way too much time. I just know this, the characters that this is when you start losing me. The characters spend a lot of time, all of the characters spend a lot of time going over every option exhaustively. No one has any logistical blind spots.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like in real life, people forget things. Look, I don't have too many blinds. Even I will have blind spots when it comes to like my work, and I'm like considered like, this is my job, right? Like I'm supposed to know these things. We
Okay.
all like, so I'm just kind of like, how is it that like it's just everybody has whenever something goes down, they all sit together and they have themselves a little Zoom meeting, you know?
Right.
Like no one, every single avenue gets considered. We must hear from every single person. And on the one hand, that's admirable. On the other hand, it doesn't exactly make for the most riveting storytelling.
Okay. Fair enough. Then
Sorry.
I will gloss over a little talky bits like that. I wanted to at least include some of the banter because I do think some of the banter is fun. All right.
If you must.
Your expression is saying that wasn't fun. So
No, it wasn't.
okay.
I'm sorry. It wasn't funny.
Let's see. So I don't know if you'd find this interesting.
I feel like I'm supposed to find all of this interesting, but for some reason I don't.
I mean, if you don't find it interesting, then you don't, and you can say that. There's a little bit of interaction where Imp and Regent actually team up, and where they're just kind of like, oh,
They're dating, aren't they?
they're not dating yet at this point.
Oh.
But both of them are just kind of like, you three have the brains, which leaves Regent, me, and Bitch following along, expected to obediently do as we're told. Let's quit and start our own group, Regent said, throwing one arm across Imp's shoulders and gesturing dramatically with the other as he continued. Regent, Imp, and Bitch, the other siders. Let's spin off team, and we'll stick with Coil while the others turn traitor and we'll have this epic fight. Imp took his cue. And Brian and I will go head to head, and it'll end in this dramatic moment where he says something pretentious, et tu, sis? And then I'll say, yeah, it's me, and finish him. No mercy.
So, Waldbo, I see you toyed with the idea of making an AU. Good for you.
Okay. Anyway, it sounds like you're not into this.
I don't know why I'm not. Can you tell me why I'm not? Because I don't know why I'm not.
I don't know.
I hate to say it, I'm just kind of like, well, what's the point? What is the point of all this?
I see. So this is what you were worried about when I spoiled all of Worm to you, right? And you're just like, there's no point going back?
Kinda, yeah. This is what I meant, but I'm like, well, this isn't interesting. Like, the bigger I feel like Worm, the bigger concepts are really interesting. The little details, not so much.
Mm-hmm.
Again, not to be rude, but like for some reason this isn't doing it at all. It's like, I don't care. Is there a reason why I should care? What does this do for the overall message of the story? Like, what place does this have here?
Okay, fair enough. Then what? I'm just gonna stop going through this, like the chapter, like with a comb.
I'm so sorry. I'm not. The witty banter is not. It's.
I'm going to pause here and just ask you, what do you want to know? Okay, I'm going to read this summary to you, and you can ask any follow-up questions that you have. Okay.
Okay.
So, the Undersiders fight against the Chosen. So they fight against Othala, Victor, Rune, Knight, and Fog. They win handily. And Regent takes Victor as a hostage.
Victor? Who's Victor?
Victor is...
Victor's my cousin's name, by the way.
No, Victor is one of the Chosen, like one of the Nazis.
Uh-huh.
And his power is he is a skill vampire. So if he's...
Skill vampire.
Yep. If he spends time around someone who is skilled, he's able to leech away their ability, weaken it somehow, and take it for himself.
So that means he's like Rogue from X-Men, but he doesn't have to touch that person.
Exactly. But it takes time. So he has to like spend time around people or things. And
skill vampire?
Uh-huh. And he can gain their abilities permanently if he's...
Do you have to do it on purpose, or do you just kind of absorb it?
I think he can do it on...
Like,
I think he does it on purpose.
Does it have to be on purpose? Or can you, like... Can it happen, like, not on purpose?
That's a good question. I don't know, because I don't think we get anything from his perspective.
I mean, I guess it's not important, but the reason I'm asking, I'm, like, asking for a friend, because I'm just like, see, I can do that, but not, like, on purpose. I'm not doing it on purpose. I spend enough time around somebody. I will start talking like them, even if I don't want to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, I mean, it turns out that Tattletale and Regent, and like basically every other Undersider, was in on the plan to take Victor as a hostage,
Except for
Taylor. And Taylor's
Well,
very upset about this.
Well, this is why they didn't tell you, because you were going to be upset. I don't see the problem.
There's so many good lines in here. I think like Tattletale says something along the lines of, she doesn't say morals, but she does say, oh yeah, Taylor's also really catty in this, because basically she doesn't want to argue with Tattletale and Regent in front of the
in front of the kids.
Yeah, not in front of the
please, not for the henchmen.
But
Mom, stop embarrassing me in front of my henchmen.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm sorry. My enemies. Like, great, now I'm gonna have to cut off somebody's head and drink the blood out of their skull to make them take me seriously. God, Mom.
Right. So
okay.
Yeah, they kind of strong arm Victor into giving himself up as a hostage.
Uh-huh.
And then Tattletale is just like,
why did they take him hostage?
So her reasoning for taking him hostage is hold on, let me go down. I don't quite remember the exact details, but they want more information on Coil, and Victor might be able to gain that sort of information for them. B, there was some like database or some other thing that they wanted hacked into, and Victor would be able to actually gain access to that. And the third thing is they want to leak information that Coil and the Undersiders are working together, right? So by taking Victor to Coil and then having Coil like make a recruitment offer to Victor, they could out that sort of information, which will help weaken Coil in the long run.
Okay.
Because yeah, on top of that, Victor, Rune, and Othala might be looking for a way to escape, like to join a different group instead of being part of the Chosen.
Well, okay. Okay, see, Taylor, I can understand why you're not cool with the whole hostage thing. My reason for not being cool with this is I don't want to work with a Nazi.
Right?
I'm a person of color.
Imp actually has a line about this. Where Imp's just like, no fucking way.
Yeah, isn't Imp a black girl?
Yeah.
Yeah, look, you're a person of color. You're not going to be comfortable working alongside a Nazi. It's like, listen, how do I know they're not going to stab me in my sleep? Because if you remember, they're a Nazi and I'm not white. No, that's a fair point. I wouldn't be comfortable with this either. I'd be like, yeah, can we just like push him off a cliff and be done with it?
Right. Anyway.
Okay.
So yeah, Imp's not very happy about it either. But the third possibility is Gru might be able to use his power to steal some of Victor's power and then use that to make himself stronger. So those are all like possibilities that they mention.
Huh.
Yeah. So yeah, Taylor's pretty upset about it. Then we have 15.y, which is an interlude from Brian's perspective.
Oh.
Brian deals with his trauma, explores the powers granted by his second trigger event, and then kisses Taylor.
That sounds interesting, but I'm afraid that it might not be.
Okay, why don't I click this, and I'll look through this and see if... I'll zoom right ahead to where he's interacting with Taylor. Sound good?
Okay.
Ooh.
What?
Actually, this part stuck out. This is a line that Bonesaw said to Brian, and it's a traumatic flashback moment.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, blood, gore, violence. Yes, you're speaking my language at last.
Okay. He paused when he re-entered his own room and found himself facing his costume as it hung on the stand. The eyes were surrounded by ridges of horns, the teeth curled and curved into one another. A demon. A creature of nightmare. I could give you a skull face like that helmet of yours, only real, and crank your powers up to the max, always on, give you some biological imperative to encourage cannibalism.
What the fuck?
See how long it takes for them to eliminate you if they can't see or hear you. You're gone, Brian growled to the empty room, seizing the mask in both hands and pulling it free of the stand. We won. Shut up. Her giggling was so vivid in his memory that it sounded like she was right next to him.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Wow, that was creative. The cannibalism. I'm sorry.
Right?
I'm sorry.
I figured you'd like that at least.
See, you do know me, dear husband. What gets me interested? Blood, gore,
Blood and
violence,
gore.
cannibalism mentions.
And maybe some romance.
Yeah, you can have your heart and eat it too. I'm
So-
awful.
Yeah. Taylor shows up.
Rawr.
He's like, decided to check in on me? Imp asked me to, she said. Her stare was uncomfortable, analyzing him.
Lol. Finally we get to see what like Taylor looks like to other people. Like,
Oh yeah, that's what makes a lot of these interludes really fun. We skipped Sierra's interlude, but we see Taylor from her perspective. And I can go back and read you that little
you can just
snippet, too.
give me choice lines, really.
Yeah,
Like,
sure.
That's you don't have to.
Anyway, so Taylor offers to make dinner for the two of them,
Oh my god. He's so awkward.
right?
That's what couples do, right? Dinner. Oh, by the way, thank you for making me dinner tonight. It was delicious.
It was.
I was worried that the tofu thing was gonna have too much like preservatives in it or like salt, but it actually wasn't super salty.
Mm-hmm.
Shit, I
Let's
think I'm
see.
sleepy.
And while they're making dinner, they have a long conversation. And
about having a house, maybe no kids.
no,
You know, a couple of giant like a yard where the giant dogs can run around with an ocean view.
superpower stuff. Oh, this might be thematically relevant.
Thematically.
Yeah. Trying to get my thoughts in order. Tired. Do you want to talk about it? He shook his head. Victor's power. If we supposedly have these passengers in our heads, guiding our power use, giving us the brain structures we need to manage the powers, I don't think I have that with any powers I borrow. They're weaker, but I don't have that knowledge about what's going on, or that extra measure of control. Want to try on me? I know I wasn't okay with it before, but I think I can handle it if I know it's coming.
So
So
Taylor's offering.
that Taylor is offering Brian to use her power
Okay.
because he's not sure if he can use Victor's power. So she's saying, try it on me. He considered for a moment. Okay. He reached out.
Wow. Oh my god, check this hot action. Get a room, you two.
Right?
I'm being very sarcastic.
Anyway, I'm not reading this because it's romance. I'm reading this because I think it's a little bit thematically relevant over here. But the contact with Taylor was like having his eyes shut and then opening them as a firecracker burst spectacularly, seeing the sparks scattered over half a mile.
Oh, there are so many jokes in there.
Only the sparks were alive, moving.
Would you say there's a spark between you? Eh.
Unsure about how to use the ability, he pushed out. There was no control, no sense of what he was controlling. He was the gust of wind, and Taylor's bugs were the leaves that blew in that wind.
I mean, they're bugs.
She pushed back and won with little effort. He could feel her moving the individual bugs, the casual hand with which she picked out the ones she wanted. It's sort of calming when you think about it, she said.
That's creepy.
You realize how small you are in the grand scheme of things. We're not really the rulers of this planet. We're just tenants.
The bugs are the rulers.
And it's small stuff, the bacteria and insects and the plant matter that really runs it all.
You know what's really funny about that statement?
Uh-huh.
She's basically, you know what Taylor just said? You should sweat the small stuff. She really did just say that. I'm just pointing it out. She did.
I don't think that was quite the metaphor.
She said it. He said it.
Even the big stuff, the nasty, scary stuff, it's all pretty small in the grand scheme of things, isn't it? Is that a good thing?
Most people have these thoughts when they're looking up at the stars. Taylor, looking at a cloud of bugs. Aren't they beautiful? Doesn't it just make you feel small and insignificant in a good way? Me, looking at it. It's a cloud of bugs. This is horrifying.
I know I sound a little crazy when I say that.
You do.
But really, you get a glimpse of these bugs as they go about their lives, almost mechanical in how they follow their instincts. You see them breeding, eating, building nests and dying.
Okay.
And you see how they just saturate every aspect of our existence. In the air, the dark corners.
You're not making me feel better.
The insides of the walls.
You're really not making me feel better.
They eat our dead.
Okay, stop. Stop, it's getting worse.
It gets better.
Can you hand me that cup? I need some water.
I can't sense them, but there's skin mites all over our body. And in our eyelashes.
Wow, Taylor, who taught you how to flirt, girl? Wow, he must be getting a stiffy from this. Like, why are you laughing?
It's just very Taylor.
I mean, just, has no one else had this thought that, like, where she's just like, oh, look, hey, that's like somebody coming up to you. That's like someone coming up to you and be like, hey, do you feel sad? That's okay. We all have skeletons inside us, quite literally. And someday that'll be all that's left. Pat your back. There. Do you feel better? That's what she did. Why are you laughing? It's true.
Okay, let me continue.
You never thought of it this way? Did none of you think of it this way?
I mean, Taylor's just kind of creepy.
No, seriously.
And even Brian like mentions that she's really creepy at the start of this chapter.
Yeah, this is creepy. Yeah, but this is like really creepy. You know what Taylor looks like now? You know what she looks like to me now? She looks like a Tim Burton drawing. You know, with her big eyes. You've seen Corpse Bride, right? You know how they draw like the women in Corpse Bride? They're big eyes, they're bug eyes in this case, and like little faces, and like the whole like, oh, that's okay. If I want to feel better, I think about how we're all going to be bug food soon. There, doesn't that make you feel better? Like, very Tim Burton-esque, this whole thing.
Tim Burton-esque.
It is, isn't it?
It is. I guess it takes me out of myself when I think about it. Reminds me that we're only one part of this vast system. We're cogs in the universe in our own way. Seeing the little details makes me feel like the big problems aren't so personal. They aren't as overwhelming.
Ah, so that's your coping mechanism. Doesn't work for me.
It literally is her coping mechanism.
That is her coping mechanism.
She triggered.
She's one of those people who, when they go to the dentist's office and they don't want to think about the drill coming at their face, they stare at the ceiling and then they count the tiles. And then they count the tiles even harder when the needle's coming at them.
Uh-huh.
One of those people. You know?
Yeah, basically. I mean, like I said, when she triggered, like, I don't know, you see her using her bugs as a coping mechanism a lot, right? That when she's feeling overwhelmed and emotional.
The inside of Taylor's head, the itsy bitsy spider went up the water spout. Okay, the rain, you know, that's her.
Alex V says, I can totally get behind the Tim Burton drawing.
It's just a great way for me to picture Taylor. That makes me like her a little more.
So, yeah, was this okay, me reading this passage to you?
That was funny.
Because I feel like also this is thematically relevant because...
she eventually becomes the nothingness.
Right.
She dies.
It shows up as a constant theme throughout the story.
Yeah.
Rambling aside, she looked more at ease than he'd ever seen someone in his darkness. She was blind, deaf, and she leaned against the counter, staring off into space as she talked. Even the talking had caught him off guard. Being blind, unable to see the reactions of the person you were talking to. Most people would struggle more, much for the same reasons they found it awkward to speak to an answering machine. I don't know if that makes sense, but I usually try reaching out to these guys when things get bad. In retrospect, it kind of centers me. I wish I could find the same comfort in my power, Brian murmured.
You can. I mean, you can't see anything. Just pretend that everything's gone and nothing's there. There, don't you feel better?
Brian
you think about the void inside of you, inside of all of us, that will soon consume us all? Doesn't that make you feel better?
You realize that Brian can see in his own power, right? He's the only person who can see in his power.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
You need to be one with the darkness.
Right?
One with the universe.
Did you say something? I think I just felt some vibrations in the air, but it's hard to tell with your power out there. He didn't reply. Oh, and then he gives Taylor the once-over here. Instead, he looked at Taylor. She wasn't conventionally attractive, he had to admit.
Yikes.
Her mouth was wide for her face. Her ears large enough that they stuck out of the mess of black curls that draped over her shoulders.
You know, what I'm hearing is that Taylor will grow up to be a beautiful woman, but she has that she's going through the awkward teenage potato phase. You want to be a potato teenager because when you're a teenager, none of your features line up because everything's in flux, right? When you're a teenager, everything's in flux. If you're one of those teenagers who looks like a Greek god, enjoy these 3 months of your existence. That will be the only time you look this good. Now, for the rest of us who are absolute potatoes, you want to be a teenage potato because at some point you will be a beautiful French fry.
Yes, beautiful French fry. Oily and glistening.
Yep, and crispy and hot, and everybody will love you.
And her shoulders, narrow, bony, deceptively delicate in appearance. She somehow managed to be self-conscious and yet unaware of the way she held herself.
You don't know you're beautiful!
The seeming fragility of her body was accented by the angles she seemed to settle into when she rested.
Listen, I'm not into girls. Is this the thing that guys are into when they look at girls?
No.
You want us to look like we're weak?
No.
Because, no. I want to know because, when girls look at each other in the mirror, it's just, there was that time when I was in, I don't think I ever told this story. I hope not. When I was in chamber choir, my senior year of high school, and I'd gone through puberty early, like before everybody else did. I was the tallest 8th grader and the shortest high schooler. That's how fast I went through it. I stopped growing. I was like, I'm growing. Oh, it stopped. When we were all getting our dresses measured for the upcoming concert, we all had to wear the same dress. So we got it like tailored, right? And everybody was kind of mad at me because I didn't need my dress tailored. And, when we were in the locker room all lining up for the tailor lady, the seamstress to measure us, it was this, oh, my shoulders are too wide. Like, I don't know how, there's probably not a lot of girls in the server or AFABs in this server who have had this experience where the girls, have you seen Mean Girls? It's that thing, my nail beds suck. My pores are so big. Girls are always standing in front of the mirror. We're told to do this, by the way, by society, that we need to be delicate. We need to look weak, like beautiful, delicate flower. You want to be as small and weak as possible because that's what men find appealing. You don't want to have big feet. I've had other girls tell me oh, you're so lucky that you have small feet. And I think to myself, I don't know if it's a lucky thing because I have thick, chunky legs and tiny feet. And so guess what happens? I trip over everything. My feet don't match the rest of my body. And, and then when you wear shirts, I have wide shoulders. And it's just oh man, none of the clothes fit me because everything's for smaller. All of the clothing that is thrown at women, I feel in general, it's meant to make you look small and delicate. You want to be small and weak because you want your man to be big and strong and able to fight off bears with his bare hands. You want a big strong man. Well, you must be small and weak and dressed like baby, to quote an SNL skit.
So far, does this description sound like he's into Taylor's body, right?
Listen,
look at these descriptions, right? It's just the seeming fragility of her body was accented by the angles she seemed to settle into when she rested. Her wrist bent at a right angle as she picked at one of her cuticles with her thumbnail.
How do you do that? I can't do that. Like this?
I could do
forward?
Maybe
It said wrist bent at a right angle. Right?
So
I can't do it backwards. I mean, my wrists suck, but...
Yeah, but awkward stuff,
This
right?
is the crossing your toes stuff all over again. Well, no, do you
we have established that toes are crossable.
No, we have not.
I showed you my crossable toes.
No, that's my toes. My short toes that are good for nothing. My short stubby toes that are good for nothing else but to be stubbed. What kind of bodies are the rest of y'all working with?
Crossable toes.
Y'all
flexible toes that can activate bombs.
Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. You should use your fingers like the rest of us normies.
Her leg raised so her right foot could rest flat against the cabinet, her shoulders tilted forward a fraction. It was as if
right foot resting flat against the cabinet. You know, Taylor, do you hold yourself like Tenya Ida from My Hero Academia, where parts of your body
It's always right angles.
must be held at right angles, because otherwise your OCD will cause you to implode. Is this a thing for you?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if she was literally a robot. Yeah.
Yeah, no, she's doing the robot. She's just now great. Now I'm just picturing her walking around in like Tim Burton-esque, but like bad claymation where everything's at right angles.
It was as if her skin didn't fit, and she couldn't stretch both arms or both legs out to the full length at the same time.
What does that mean, your skin didn't fit? I've never seen anybody and thought that their skin didn't fit, except for people who've lost a large amount of weight in a short amount of time.
Hold on, skin didn't fit is a metaphor that I've heard a lot, right? Feeling like you don't fit in your skin. Meaning just you look uncomfortable, like you just want to be anywhere but here, right? It's a metaphor.
You know why her skin doesn't fit? She needs her exoskeleton.
Oh,
her armor.
Okay. Yeah, right. Because she's an insect.
Yeah, exactly. She's an insect. She's a bug.
Tower says, fuck, I was cute in high school.
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. Are you still cute? I don't know what you look like.
Well, I told him he's still cute, and he says, no, I became hot.
Okay.
Good for you.
First of all, fuck you. Second of all, good for you.
Oh, I'm being a little spiteful there, Panda.
We have two modes. We have potato mode, and you have like good looking mode. And you know, seriously, it's called long bottoming. You either long bottom or you do what was his name? Okay, fine. Not all of us are Emma Watson. Emma Watson just looks great no matter what. I don't know why. There's Neville Longbottom, who started out looking kind of like a weird kid and then became like inexplicably like everybody says he's hot. And then there's whatever happened to the guy who plays Ron Weasley. I'm sorry, sir. Rupert Grint? I think it's Rupert Grint.
Yeah.
Sorry, Grint. What the years weren't kind.
Mm-hmm.
It's just okay. Well, first of all, yeah. Good for you. Apparently you're Emma Watson, and you just look perfect no matter what. Good for you, Tower. Good for you, Emma.
I love you, Tower. It made him think of a bird, or one of her insects, but...
Definitely one of her insects, not a bird.
He didn't feel like he was being unflattering by thinking it.
You don't think. But I, as somebody, as an AFAB who dates men... Don't let her hear these thoughts.
Yeah. Oh, she wouldn't like.
Let her hear these thoughts. If you came up to me and told me all these things, like my skin didn't fit, I'd be like, "Well, your face doesn't fit." I would throw a cup of water. I'd throw my soda at you.
Tower says, "As long as I stand near non-sexy people, I am reasonable."
I feel like that's pretty reasonable for all of us. As long as we don't stand next to anybody sexy, no one will know that we're ugly.
Mm-hmm. In fact...
This is why I keep my mask on.
As he looked, he could note how long her arms and legs were, the length of her neck and torso.
He's describing her like she's a stick bug.
Right.
You know the stick bugs?
Yeah.
Right? The ones that they only move at right angles? So they're like really skinny. Go back up. I'm trying to find evidence to the contrary that Taylor is not, in fact, a stick bug. Let's see, not conventionally attractive. Yeah, I mean, not everybody's a dragonfly. Dragonflies are pretty. Mouth too wide for the face. Ears large enough that they stuck out. That's okay. So a stick bug in a wig.
Stick bug in a wig.
Tim Burton style.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tim Burton.
Yeah, she sounds like a stick bug.
In a wig. Cool. Noted.
Does Taylor also do that thing of kind of pretending to fade into the background? Don't worry, I'm just a stick. Just sticking it out here. Don't pay attention to me.
She hides in her swarm a lot.
Does her powers change her psychology the way that it does for Bitch?
Yes.
So she's got like a little bit of that hive mind thing going. She's a queen bee. She's a bug.
She has multitasking powers on top of being able to control insects.
Bugs aren't simple enough to be able to multitask.
No, but she can.
Oh, she is the hive mind.
She is the hive mind.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that actually got pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's cool now.
The shard granted her
a hive mind.
The hive mind.
Because of course, actually, aliens.
So it's
Yeah, you know what? The shards being aliens and the alien hive minds, like those are always words that I find are stuck together. So somehow, that makes more sense now.
Skipping into Word of God stuff. there's a lot of talk about Taylor wanting to second trigger because she wants to get more powerful, right? And word of God is that Taylor has already second triggered, and that the second trigger happened immediately after the first trigger. What happened was she was stuffed in a locker, she triggered, and she gained the power to to sense all of those bugs and like maybe control them.
Huh.
But the trauma of sensing all those bugs and still being trapped caused her to trigger a second time.
Oops, I
And-
did it again.
And that second trigger is what gave her the multitasking powers.
Oh, so that's why she thinks in a way that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. She can literally think on like parallel tracks all at once.
Why has her brain not exploded yet?
Mm-hmm.
Mine would have.
Alex says,
I only have the one brain cell.
Brian's description of Taylor's makes me think of a flamingo a bit, so bird could work. We need new warm front.
A black flamingo with, curly black hair, right? And the flamingos are pink, so a black flamingo.
Uh-huh. The tower
With
says,
a feather boa for a hat.
Brian says, yeah, you're looking like a stick. Taylor, inside his darkness, you say something?
I said, stick around.
Stick around. Stick with me, bud.
Stick with me. Yeah.
She was still growing. She had grown, even in the months they'd known each other.
Does he mean like height?
Yes, I think. Somehow he could see how the groundwork was being laid for the finished product.
Okay, okay. Oh, that is definitely
Right?
checking someone
This is-
else. He's looking at her boobs.
This is so steamy, isn't it?
No, it's not.
A body that wouldn't be skinny, but slender, long-legged. If she was still growing, and if her dad was any indication, she'd be tall.
It's too bad she never gets there. Because she dies.
Would she be a trophy wife, or turn heads? Probably not. But he could see how someone might come to look past the quirks, even come to like them, and they'd find nothing to complain about in her. How someone might want to hold her in their arms.
Okay, dude.
She spoke, interrupting his train of thought.
Brian's whole train of thought. She's ugly, but she's not super ugly. Maybe one day she'll stop being ugly. Too skinny. Not good for bearing sons. Oh, but perhaps one day. Let's press fast forward on this bitch and see how it turns out. That's kind of how he's like putting it. It's like, don't worry, you'll stop being ugly enough for somebody to want you someday.
Uh-huh. Oh,
Don't say these things to anyone, Brian. Oh my god, you're gonna get slapped.
Tower is saying
I will slap you.
after the time skip, so when Taylor's 18, she gets a lot taller and still stays skinny. So, yeah, she gets taller.
Okay. Great. Does she still look like a stick bug?
Probably.
Oh, tall, skinny.
Anyway, is this relevant? This feels like unexpectedly intimate. Stop me if it gets boring, okay? Look, Brian, I don't want to stir up any unhappy thoughts, but I don't want to ignore the subject either. I did some reading, and there's a pretty scary number of people who have their second trigger events, and then have a bad ending shortly after.
Taylor, how do I deal with these emotions? Let's go straight to Google.
I think it has to do with the toll it takes on you. The event. I'm not good at this. At the people stuff. But
You can say that again.
I have been through some dark spots. My mom.
I mean, you're in a dark spot right now.
Literal, yeah.
I'm sorry, I have to point that out.
My mom died not too long
Hmm.
ago. I can't remember if we really talked about that. And there was the bullying. I sometimes wonder how much that influences what I do and why.
Oh yeah, wasn't there a Jessica Yamada thing? I want to Dr. Jessica.
She will
Yeah.
talk to Jessica in the future.
I wanna hear. I'm Dr. Jessica. I want to hear from Dr. Jessica.
Okay.
From one Dr. Jessica to another.
We can do that. We
Later.
can skip ahead to that. if you
No,
want.
this is awkward and kind of cute.
Yeah,
and
right?
also really funny if you take a step back and think about things.
Yeah. I don't really know where I'm going with this, but I guess
don't
I'm
either.
saying I'm here for whatever you need. He expected there to be a swell of that dark anxiety that had plagued him as she raised the subject of what had happened. But when his heart pounded, it wasn't the same as it had been earlier. Through the sliver of power he had borrowed from her, he could feel the bugs at work, performing 100 subtly different tasks, sweeping over areas in formation, drawing lines of silk across doorways and roadways, marking the people elsewhere in the neighborhood, keeping an eye on their movements, gathering en masse, when people weren't in a room to check tabletops and cabinets. And Taylor was just standing there, leaning against the counter, calm. She was blind, deaf, and the person at the other end of the conversation hadn't responded for at least a minute. It wasn't like she didn't have her own ugly thoughts plaguing her, 1,000 responsibilities, 100 reasons to feel angry or guilty. But she'd somehow found a way to let herself be at ease here. Or was that the same deceptive confidence she displayed as she'd approached his headquarters? He ideally wondered if that veneer would crack if he surprised her here, but he didn't want to be mean as he did it. That felt wrong. Something else. Almost on instinct, Brian stepped forward, reaching for her, then stopped, letting his hands drop to his sides. If he reached out to hold her, that would be a breach of trust.
Is this how men actually think?
This is how some men think, for sure.
I mean, I wouldn't know.
Which part are you asking about? The whole, like, wanting to surprise her, or just the whole, like, oh, I want to do something here?
Yeah, I guess.
I can relate to this.
Mm.
Right?
Mm.
It's just like, oh, Taylor literally
ask.
just said, oh, I'll be, whatever you need, I'll be here for you. And it's just like, there's this long, awkward pause while a man considers what to do.
Men.
Hey, Taylor said, her voice so quiet he could barely hear it. Slightly louder, she said, go ahead. She knew, but he felt out with her power, saw the spark of the bug she'd placed on the cuffs of his pants, on the edge of his sleeve. How did she keep track of all of that? I just told you why.
Yay.
And
By the way, it's almost 10. We should stop.
And how was he supposed to respond now? He barely had any friends outside of work.
You have more than Taylor.
His contact with girls had been limited to flirting, more work, and fighting with his sister.
Okay, Brian, what makes you think Taylor would know the difference between you being awkward and you being normal? And what makes you think that she's in any position to judge your lack of social IQ?
Right.
It's Taylor. The only person who has less social IQ than Taylor in this group is probably Bitch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think seeing Taylor from Brian's perspective is so interesting, right? Because you don't know what she's thinking from there.
She doesn't emote.
But like clearly in her head, she's probably just going like like
no, she's in her head. It's just like you just see like the Matrix numbers coming down. So it's like if I do this, then he'll say this. If I do this, then he'll say this. But I should do this. No, wait. What if I do this? What if I do this? What if I do this? What do I do this? And on the outside, he's like, what is she thinking? On the outside, he's like, what's going on in that beautiful mind? And on the inside, it's overthink. You know.
Swallowing, he reached out and wrapped his arms around her shoulders, gently pulling her close. He couldn't shake the idea that she'd break if he squeezed too hard, so his touch was light. She hugged his lower body, pressing her head against his collarbone, both actions surprising him with their strength and ferocity.
I'm really surprised that Taylor is doing this even. On the inside, she seems almost like, oh, like a normal person here. But on the inside, I don't know. I feel like on the inside, she's probably doing the whole like, this is normal, right? Hugging people? Am I hugging right? Oh God, I'm hugging wrong, aren't I?
Oh, for sure she's thinking all this. He willed the darkness away, banished the sparks that, as Taylor had suggested, painted them as a very small people in a big world.
Very small people in a big world. A big world.
As the light returned, it was just them.
Aw, that's so sweet. It's gross. It's actually disgusting.
This is what you wanted? She murmured. You're so still, he replied. Not even.
Okay, wow. Okay, wow, great. Brian, just no. You know what, Brian? You're cuter when you don't talk. Just don't.
That's good, she answered him.
What the hell?
Her non sequitur.
Wow, you guys are perfect for each other. You're awful. You know what? You guys should have stayed together so you wouldn't have to inflict this on anyone else. Wow. I feel bad for you. Dude, I'm not good at peopling. I'm not. And I'm sitting here going like, ooh, this is weird.
This is some of the most awkward, like, I guess, realistic-ish romance.
I would not know.
Okay.
I'm asexual. I'm aromantic to a degree. Like, honey, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I feel like I can hear very awkward music playing in the... I feel like I can hear the Titanic theme being played on recorder in the background.
Uh-huh.
Or maybe on accordion, because that's more awkward.
They stayed like that for some time. He could feel her breathing, her heartbeat, and the warmth of her breath against his chest. He felt tears in his eyes, blinked them away, unsure why they'd even come in the first place. I'm sorry,
It's the hormones.
he said. Don't be. He couldn't be quite sure what he was sorry for. I'm going to skip this part.
Yeah.
Maybe he said it because it had taken him this long. He dismissed the doubts and hesitation. Can we? He pulled away
Can
slightly
you what?
and looked in the direction of the couch.
What? Oh, I would have misinterpreted that.
Her eyes widened a fraction. Not that.
Okay.
Just
Okay, I'm like, I'm not the only one who went like,
He paused, trying to find a way to say what he wanted to say without putting her in a position where she couldn't say no. Okay, she seemed to get his meaning. She led him by one hand into the living room. He lay down first, arranging the cushions into a makeshift pillow.
Kids?
She took that time to remove the knife.
I
the
think
gun,
Alec has condoms in his drawer. You should raid his room first.
remove the knife, the gun, and the various contents of her pockets, placing them on the nearby coffee table. Once he was arranged, he was the one to pull on her hand, moving gingerly.
Okay, this is really awkward. I feel like I need to cover my eyes and like look away.
Right?
I'm just like, oh god, this is...
Moving gingerly, as if she expected him to react badly with every motion she made, she found a way to lie across him without lying on top of him, her head on his shoulder, both legs draping across his pelvis, her upper body pressed against his side. If he hadn't noted that quirk of hers, how she bent herself at odd angles.
Odd? Don't you mean even angles? The right angles. Technically, they're even.
He might have thought she'd be uncomfortable. As it was, he somehow didn't feel the need to worry. He pulled her closer with one arm. For days, he'd been seeking some way to get centered, to stop that downward spiral where anxiety and fear gave him cause to be more anxious, more afraid. He'd hurt himself doing it, and he'd very nearly hurt his relationship with Aisha. He'd been trying to do it alone. He'd needed a rock, an anchor. If he'd been asked months ago, weeks ago, even days ago, he wasn't sure he would have believed that was true, or that it would be Taylor, of all people. The stove, he said, starting to sit up.
Oh my god.
Handled, Taylor replied, pushing him back down. He looked over and saw the dials had been set.
Oh yeah, bugs.
Yes. Thank you, he said. It took him a second to raise the courage.
This is really awkward. I mean, it's tender, but it's really awkward. And I don't know. I feel like I'm getting hives. I'm just kind of like, okay, this is going on a little too long. I don't like this. It's like, I'm happy for you. You know, I don't know what happened because I guess I kind of shipped it, but I'm also just kind of like, it's getting a little too real. It's like watching like your little brother or like your son or your daughter. It's like
awkwardness.
Yeah, it's like, you know, when when you're the only ace person in your family. Hey, Vale.
Vale says, do you prefer comments in Discord? Where's the Discord channel you are chatting during the read? No, I try to pay attention to both YouTube chat and Discord.
Because he's got a hive mind too, just like Taylor.
I do not have a hive mind.
Because, he's got computer bugs.
If I did have
bugs in the computer.
I wouldn't have so much trouble with doing things. The Discord is on Doof Media. So, Doof Media should be free to join right now. So you can just hop in there and join the Panda Reaccs live read thread. Anyway.
We're hopping off soon, right?
We're gonna stop at the end of this.
Okay.
But he kissed the top of her head. She nodded, her head rubbing against him. Really, he said, reaching over to tilt her head so she was looking up at him. He kissed her on the lips this time. Thank you. She didn't reply, only smiling and nestling in close again. Taylor, okay, context, Brian hasn't been sleeping for days.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I get it. That's why the dialogue is so awkward. That's why nothing makes sense. He's clearly sleep deprived. It's okay, Bri. I too do things that I regret when I do not sleep. You know, like eat chocolate in the middle of the night.
Taylor fell asleep before he did. He laid there for some time, trying to match his breathing to hers, as if he could copy her and fall asleep the same way. It was almost as if he'd forgotten how. He wasn't all better, wasn't sure he would ever be. He just had to think about it, and he could almost see Bonesaw in the kitchen, waiting, watching. Whatever barriers he'd erected between reality and the uglier possibilities, they'd taken a beating. But he could breathe, now. His eyes closed. And that's the end of the Brian interlude.
Aw, that's cute.
I thought you would enjoy this.
You know, that kind of reminds me of like, oh, see, sweetheart, you're my Taylor.
I'm your rock.
Yeah, you are.
I'm your creepy bug girl rock.
You're skinnier than I am.
Oh, that's
actually,
cute.
are you? No, actually,
not
my
really.
BMI is lower than yours.
Yeah.
But you have, I have longer hair. But you have curlier hair, I think. Actually, I don't know anymore. Whatever. You're my creepy bug girl.
Why,
you are the queen bee of my
flattering.
heart.
I appreciate.
You are the queen bee of my heart. I am the one with the heart of darkness.
Maybe when I get older, I'll be all right looking.
Maybe, perhaps, if you're lucky.
Hooray.
Perhaps, if you're lucky, someone will want to hold you in their arms. Do not ever say this to a prospective date. Not. It's like, you know, she looks at you. What are you looking at? She says, and he's like, you're okay looking. Kind of. Perhaps one day somebody will think you're better looking. Do not say that.
Anyway, what did you think of this format?
It went on too long.
It went on too long?
Yeah, it was okay.
Was it okay that we zoomed into like that section?
I'm Panda. My patron god is my goddess is, I believe, Ishtar. Love and chaos, you know?
Okay.
Shipping and blood and murder.
All right. I think I just have to figure out what you're interested in looking at.
You know what I'm interested in? What did I just say? Blood, murder, shipping.
All right, blood, murder, and shipping.
And and of course, anything related to depression and like mental health issues. Okay. I am all over that shit. I like to see much in the way that we all look sexy when we're next to like nobody. When there's like more unattractive people next to us, I look more sane when there's crazy people about.
Anyway, I do think. Do you have any interest in 15.x, which is an interlude we just skipped?
Which is donation interlude.
It's from Carol's perspective. We get to learn about Amy and Victoria's mom, and we get to zoom in a little bit on the end of Amy and Victoria's story.
Oh, actually, yes, I'm very interested. Okay. Come on, I'm interested in this stuff. What did I say? Mental health issue, fucked up shit.
Yeah. And then the next time we will start with that and continue reading through Arc 15 Colony.
Yeah, I'm more interested in the concepts for a lot of these, you know, like the concepts. Like, okay, this was actually a good zoom in because this was fucking hilarious. That paragraph where like Brian looks at Taylor, it's just like, you're not hot yet, but you will be. Like, that was the funniest thing I've ever seen. And this whole thing was very sweet and kind of awkward and kind of like uncomfortable. I mean, look, it's just, none of you, I don't think any of you have children old enough yet, but it's like catching your teenage it's catching like your teenage son or daughter making out on the couch next to their girlfriend. And you're just like, I knew this was going to happen, but I really didn't want to see that. I didn't want to be here for it. You know, that's what it felt like. Like, oh, okay, that's great.
It's just like, ooh.
Okay, I'm walking right back down. Okay, like,
oh. Nope. Now that I think about it.
Think about what? What?
Could Imp have been there the entire fucking time?
Eating popcorn?
Maybe.
Very quietly.
Right.
And
just being like,
the more you try to concentrate on the sound of popcorn crunching in that mouth, the less you can tell what's going on. I don't know. I don't know. See,
She
Imp is
wouldn't-
not.
she
She's
wouldn't
not
let
a
herself be
voyeur.
there.
Imp
Yeah.
is not a voyeur, but Alec is.
yeah, Alec would be.
So
fine with
what?
it.
Yeah. So how do we not know that they're both in on it together? If you know what I mean, like Alec controlling Imp, who was using her power,
I don't
and they're
think-
both just kind of like, all right, this is happening now.
They're not together at this point in the story. I'm
Like,
pretty sure. But still,
you saw it starting here.
for sure. Yeah,
You
that's
saw
why
it
I wanted to
starting.
highlight it to you, right? And just like show you some of that banter.
Listen, we don't have word of God saying that they weren't doing, like, they weren't just like secretly spying because they're gross. Oh no, I wouldn't. I don't know. I wouldn't want to be here for this. Do you think your sister? You have a younger sister who's
Yeah,
a
I would
little
not
bit
want to
hellion.
be there to see my.
No, I
younger
was thinking the
sister.
other way around.
Oh, she would not want to see me. No. Yeah.
So maybe she probably wasn't there because again, we have siblings. You want to be around where your siblings macking on somebody very awkwardly?
Yeah, no,
no,
thank
you
you.
don't. No, you really don't. Ugh.
And to be fair, Aisha kind of told Taylor to go there, so
Go where?
to go take care of Brian.
Oh, she got the sister seal of approval from the Hellion. Wow, you have won. That is the most difficult thing you have ever done here. That is the highest difficulty level.
Yeah, I think next.
No wonder you were able to kill Coil. You convinced Aisha that it was okay for you to date her brother.
Right.
Wow.
The following
Bravo,
chapter,
bravo.
Taylor actually has a short conversation with Aisha. So
About
Brian, of course. Anyway, it's short.
that is so awkward. I have not had any conversations with your sister about you.
No,
Have you had any conversations with my brother about me?
a little. On
About-
Facebook, not in person.
More about my mental health issues and stuff, right?
Yes.
Yeah. See, that's okay.
Okay.
You have not, like, yeah, look, there's some conversations that, you know, like, I don't know. Look, I'm one of those people who likes to think of a sibling as like a fellow gremlin who you kind of share like a house and background with.
Uh-huh.
But, you know, it's just, I don't know, sibling, you know how sibling it is with siblings.
Yeah.
You know, you greet each other by shrieking at each other from across the room. If one of you comes home, the other says, "Go away," you know.
Trolling each other.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly what Aisha and Brian kind of have.
Yeah,
right?
that's the real.
Except Brian's also trying to be parental figure to her, which like she's not accepting any of that.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's Brian.
Yeah.
Would you?
No, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Because like, if I were Aisha, I'd just be like, he has a stick up his butt,
He doesn't have any of his own shit together. Why should I listen to him?
right?
He has a stick up his butt. Taylor is a stick. She could be up his butt.
Eh.
I'm sorry. I had to. I'm sorry. It was right there. It was right there.
Oh, Tower says, I think she reveals later that she spied. Okay. All right. I guess just to make sure that
Ew.
Taylor didn't mess up, I guess.
But
I don't know.
God, listen, this was fine, but the longer this whole thing went on, the less I wanted to stay in the room. I wanted to go. And you kept reading slower to me, and I'm just like, okay, this is fine. The children are macking in a corner. Great. I don't want to be here. When you're at a party and people are making out, and you're just like, I really don't want to be right next
It was
to
2 kisses. Come on, Panda. It was one on the head and one on the lips. And then they fell asleep.
It was too cute. It was gross.
I thought you were the queen of fluff.
I don't know why. This sat weird with me. They're like my children.
Okay.
I don't know. I guess I see when I ship couples, I kind of think of them as like, you know, I guess equals, I guess.
Right.
You know, think of them as your friends.
Oh, Alex is heading to bed. Good night.
Yeah, I'm heading to bed too.
Yeah.
So, good night.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's different.
Tower said 20 minutes is less than an hour 40.
Yeah, honey.
Oh, it's not an hour 40. We've been on for like an hour and a half.
I only wanted to be on here for 30 minutes.
I'm sorry.
Okay, just seriously,
Good
just
night, Dale.
one thing at a time, okay? One chapter at a time.
Okay.
Since you're going to like go through everything with me, just one at a time, all right?
One at a time then. Sounds good.
Yeah,
All right,
we need
well,
to sign off.
We're gonna call it a night here then.
I have sleep to get.
Good night.
All right.